Hello everybody, it's Magda. Today I'm going to be talking about last minute revision tips. Now I know that exam season is coming up very fast and people are starting to get stressed out, myself included. I have a lot of stuff to do today and I'm sat here filming a video. But definitely if you have left your revision a tad bit too late, and if you're watching this video you probably have left your revision a tad bit too late, then I really hope that this video helps you make the most of the time that you have left to revise. So with that being said, let's just get on to the video. So these tips literally don't have an order to them because I do not have time right now to sort out the order that they're going to go in, so just bear with me. The first tip is going to be to do past papers. Now I know that everyone says this, you ask anyone what should I do to revise and they are literally going to tell you just do past papers, like past papers, past papers, past papers, past papers and even more past papers. So especially if you're doing last minute revision, it's going to be a bit of a squeeze to cover all of the content that you need to learn. You're probably not going to manage it. So the next best thing you can do is just get good at the exam technique, because even if you know all the content that you need to know and you can literally recite the textbook, you are still not going to get the best mark that you can get if you can't answer the questions. I remember this was really prominent in business studies. The teacher was just like, you know what, the content, if you know it, that's great, but you need to be able to answer the exam questions, otherwise even if you know the content, you're gonna get a bad mark. There are specific things that mark schemes look for. It's just a case of, can you answer this type of question? Can you structure your answer in a way that will give you all the marks? And the only way that you're going to be able to figure out how to answer these questions is just by doing past papers and looking at mark schemes. That's literally it. You kind of know what they're looking for, so in your exam if a similar question comes up, you write down what they want you to write down, because even if a slightly different question comes up, you kind of know the sorts of things that would be on that mark scheme, having seen other questions. And this leads me on to my next point about past papers, which is look for trends in past papers. Look for trends in the mark schemes so that you kind of can figure out what they would be looking for, even if the question is slightly different. But also look for trends in questions. Look for the topics that they really love to ask you about and just make sure that you're really good at those topics, because if they're going to put in like big questions about a certain topic, you want to make sure that you can answer those questions, especially in the 6 markers. Look for the trends. So there's a YouTube channel, I'm going to put the name on the screen because I can't remember it, but she talks about her predictions for the 6 markers in science GCSE exams. Obviously it's just predictions, but obviously she's a teacher, she's been teaching for a while, she's seen the trends in questions, and she's obviously a lot more qualified than most to tell you what kind of things you should expect to come up. It just depends on how many times they've asked the question, whether they're likely to ask a similar question again. Another thing about past papers is it helps you to identify things that you need to revise. Again, this is really important if you're doing last minute revision because you can't cover all the content. If you're doing a past paper and you can't seem to remember certain things and you've been doing a few past papers and you can see that you're dropping marks on similar kind of topics, it definitely helps you identify where your weaknesses are so you can target those instead of revising stuff that you actually know. Like, you may not feel like you know it, but if you're doing past papers and you're getting the questions right, then you obviously do know it. So the next tip is don't stress yourself out too much. Literally don't make yourself into a ball of just stress and anxiety. It's going to be no use to you if you're doing a bunch of revision but at the same time you're stressed beyond stressed, because you're just going to get to the exam and you are going to crumble because your mind is just going to be in a really bad place. So definitely make sure you have time to yourself. Just take an evening off, have a bath, relax, watch a movie. Don't feel guilty about it. That is something that I am guilty of. Literally, when I'm not doing work, I feel so bad. I feel like I should be doing work all the time and it's really not good. Also, say for example, you told yourself that you were going to wake up early one day and revise, but then you oversleep. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't stress yourself out and get angry that you didn't wake up and now you've wasted a day. Just do what you can on that day. If you're too tired, just stop. If it comes to like 11 o'clock at night and you're still revising and literally you could fall asleep in your chair, over your maths paper, just stop doing it, finish it the next day. You're literally just wasting your time because you're not going to learn anything because you're just too tired. Especially with myself, I can tell when I'm just too tired to function because I start getting really easy maths questions wrong and I'm just like, are you dumb? Like, can you use a calculator, Magda? Can you type in the right answer? Can you copy down the right number from the question? No, you can't. So that's when you know that, like, you need to go to sleep. The next tip is manage your time well, and by this I mean focus on the subjects that you need to revise the most. Definitely just prioritizing things that you struggle with. And I know that this may be really annoying because often when you're revising those subjects, you just feel like you're a failure because you can't do it and you just don't understand or whatnot, and if you're doing questions and you keep getting them wrong, it can literally make you feel so crap about yourself. But just keep at it because the more practice that you do and the more revision that you do, it's really going to help you. So definitely make sure that you're not putting off subjects that you can't do just so that you don't feel crap about yourself now, because you're just going to feel crap about yourself later in the exam when it actually matters. So yeah. Another thing is mix up your revision. So for example, in one day, do a session of a subject that you're not quite so good at and just revise that, and then follow that up with, for example, a past paper of a subject that you are good at, so then it kind of lifts your mood again because you're like, I'm not a complete failure. So yeah. So the next tip is make a revision timetable. Make one, stick to it. Even if you have 1 week till your exam, make sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing every single day. Put the times on. Don't just say like, oh yeah, I'm going to revise biology today. Make sure you say, I'm going to revise biology from 5 o'clock till 5:30, so that you know that in that time you need to be doing biology and nothing else. Make sure that you have a revision timetable. It's seriously going to help you so you're not coming home from school and being like, what should I do today? So just know what you have to get done by a specific date and just spread it out over the time that you have left and make sure that you get it done, because there's nothing worse than coming to the day before the exam and realizing that you haven't revised a certain topic that you really should have revised. If you haven't done enough revision and it's coming up to exams and you need to get revision done, don't plan things every single weekend, because weekends are kind of the only times that you're actually going to get to fully revise properly. Like, you obviously need to be revising after school, but you're tired and you're not going to learn stuff as well as you can if you just dedicate a whole day. The next tip is make your revision effective. If you haven't got much time left to revise, you may as well try and make the most of the time that you have left. So you don't want to be spending like 4 hours on something that you could have done in an hour. So put away any distractions, put away your phone, make sure that you're trying to get things done as fast as possible while still doing it to the best of your abilities, because you're just going to waste your time if you're spending ages on something that could be done very, very quickly. It's just... The next tip is one of the most important things ever in revision, which is check your spec, check your syllabus, whatever you have, just check it, go through it, make a checklist of all the things that you need to revise. Make sure that you know what you actually need to revise, because the amount of times that I've sat there and been revising and then I look at the syllabus and I'm like, this isn't even on there. So just go through it, make sure that you know everything, make sure that you've revised everything. If you haven't revised something, just like star it or highlight it so that you know what you have left to do. I know that some teachers definitely don't reiterate this, but it's really important. You need to look at your spec, because it's the thing that you're going to get tested on at the end of the day. So this next tip is probably what you should do before you start revision, but I told you this was going to be jumbled up. Anyway, it's a figure out how you learn best. Now I know that this takes a bit of time, but figure out what kind of learner you are, whether you learn by watching videos, whether you learn by listening to people explaining things to you, or writing out notes or flashcards or whatever. But definitely just taking that time to try different methods of learning and see what works best for you is going to help you in the long run, because you're not just going to waste time revising in a certain way that's really not going to help you. That's just the sad truth. So the next tip is something to do when it gets quite close to your exam, and this is to make a cheat sheet. So basically just write down everything that you need to know for the exam on one side of A4 paper. Just condense all the information massively to the bare minimum, even if it's just keywords that you need to remember or just prompts to jog your memory. It's useful, like if you don't know something, then you can look back in your notes and remind yourself of it before you go into the exam, so when you get in there you actually know it, you know. And the last tip that I have is post-it notes. Everyone loves post-it notes. I do agree with that. Post-it notes are really great. If there's stuff that you need to remember and you literally cannot remember for the life of you, just write it down on a post-it note, stick it in a prominent place in your room or in your house, like on the fridge, if you go to the fridge often like me. And that way every time you look at it you will be exposed to the information and it should be cemented into your brain. However, you actually need to look at the post-it note. It's no use sticking it on your wall and expecting it to suddenly like hop into your brain, you know. The only way that post-its will actually work is every time you see one, read over it, read the information on it, and then go about your daily life, and it should hopefully help you. So that was the whole video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I really do hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to my channel for more revision related videos because I love making them. You can also follow my social media. The handles are in the description box. So that's pretty much all I have to say. So I'm just gonna go now because I have to revise, because that's what I should have been doing for the past hour. So bye! Wish me luck with my Latin vocab.